Howdy ho, YouTube. Jon-Luke VGC here. Today, I am actually looking to do a slightly different format than I normally am. I was talking with Jordy VGC a couple of days ago, whom I will link down in the description below. Go check out their channel. And it was when I featured that Galarian Moltres team about last week, which I'm sure I will figure out how to pop up on the screen somewhere, hopefully around here. We'll find out about that one. That'll be my first time doing that. But I remember when I was using the team, I never actually used the Chandelure on it. Actually, I should have it. Yeah, actually, I already have it pulled up. So yeah, it had a Life Orb Chandelure, and I was a bit confused on why exactly it was there. But when I was talking with him, he had made mention that it was most likely there to hard counter Koraidon, which would normally, at that point, it's still now, run the moves like Flare Blitz, Flame Charge, Collision Course, and Protect. And you'll notice that the Chandelure has Flash Fire, so it's immune to both of the fire moves, and it's a ghost type, so obviously it's immune to the fighting type moves. And that kind of got me thinking, I wonder if there were any other Pokemon out there that we could use to hard counter restricteds in the meta. So I did some digging, and I think I found a few. So I want to make this clear. This is not an end-all be-all list. This is just some Pokemon that I found with some sets I created that could hard counter the most popular restricted Pokemon in the meta to maybe give y'all some ideas. So that way you can kind of get those juices flowing and start cooking with that spice again. Because that's what I've really noticed. In this meta, it is particularly hard to use kind of those off-meta Pokemon because of the single restricted format. So my question is how do we do it? Like, what is the best way to build with some spicy mons? And in my opinion, you want to do it one of two ways. Either you pick the Pokemon you want and create a set with it in order to hard counter a restricted, or you build a team of the 5 other mons, then you find which popular restricted you are most weak to, and find a Pokemon that hard counters it. That's where I think we could really see some success with these kinds of Pokemon. So I thought it would be fun to make a video kind of going through some options that I found, explaining why I made them. And then from there, maybe y'all could try out these sets. Y'all could make your own, find different Pokemon. I think this would be really fun and a kind of a different video type than what I have been doing since I started this channel. So if you do like this format, I could definitely see myself making this somewhat a series. Or if you would like me to utilize the Pokemon, that's also an option. But let me know down in the comments below what you think. Tell me if you do like it, what you would like to see next. I really love to teach, and so I think this is a really fun teaching opportunity and like collaboration opportunity to get into some of these like fun Pokemon picks. So maybe we could see them pop up since we're still going to be in Regulation G for quite a while more. And I don't necessarily know. Remember, I'm still relatively new to VGC, but I don't necessarily know how much weird modification we're going to see to the meta going into Worlds where people are really going to be concerned with what they know works. So let's just go ahead and... So I explained a little bit very quickly about Chandelure, but you can tell I didn't run the calc specifically for Chandelure, or maybe I did. I have my notes over here. Sorry, my screen's a mess. But yeah, so you'll see that it is immune to both fire with Flash Fire and fighting types because of its ghost typing. And Koraidon, for some reason, doesn't normally run dragon moves. Now, lately, I have seen that change a little bit. I've seen some Koraidons with Breaking Swipe. I've seen some with Dragon Claw. If Chandelure was a more common Pokemon, I think we would see those sets pop up. But for the most part, I've mainly only seen the Double Fire plus Fighting type plus Protect Clear Amulet set. So, actually, why don't I just go to... Here. Go to Calyrex. This is also a kind of off-the-cuff video. I'm not gonna be super proud. I think this is just be fun to kind of chat, go through, kind of see what we got. So let's go to Regulation G Showdown. I want Koraidon. Here we go. Oh, only 4.65% usage. Interesting. But yeah, Collision Course, Flare Blitz, Protect, and Flame Charge. Then it's U-turn, and then at less than 10%, we have Dragon Claw. So U-turn would be an option, although Chandelure would resist it. U-turn I've seen on some Choice Band Koraidon sets, which do buku damage, dude. If you've never played with one, it's actually pretty fun. So I could see that, but by and large, you know, 50%, 77%, 92%, 98%, these are the primary 4 moves. Clear Amulet, 250, 252 Jolly. I mean, that's just common. So Chandelure is going to wall, like, over 90% of all Koraidons. I mean, a non-fighting or fire-type move was under 10%, so 90%, like 92% of all Koraidons are hard-walled by Chandelure. So that makes sense. But we're not seeing, it's actually, funny enough, the Koraidon is the 6th most used restricted in all VGC Regulation G. So let's hop into the top 5 and see the sets that I created. So first things first, we have Calyrex-Shadow. We all know Calyrex-Shadow. It is the number 1. Oop, don't want to spoil anything. So let's take a look at Calyrex-Shadow real quick. See right there, 26. So 1/4, a little more than 1/4 of all teams have a Calyrex-Shadow on it. So we go down here, it has Astral Barrage, Protect, Nasty Plot, and Draining Kiss. And then we have Psychic at 29%. That is important. So you can see the 4 most popular moves. It does not have a Psychic type move. Normally it's running Ghost, Fairy to cover its Dark resistance, which is really common. Protect and Nasty Plot. Life Orb, Choice Specs, super common. Life Orb seems to be the number 1 common. I remember Focus Sash in the beginning of the reg was super duper common, and then Citrus Berry as well. I'm surprised Choice Scarf is that high. And then you just got 252, 252, you know, Modest 252. This is really probably a Nasty Plot or Calm Mind set right here. Really bulky with enough damage, and it doesn't need that much speed. You know, 252, 252, that kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, what can hardwall Calyrex-Shadow? And my answer to that is Grafaiai. So I came up with this Grafaiai set with Covert Cloak. So you'll notice with Calyrex-Shadow, Rillaboom and Incin are right there for 2 of the top 3 most used Pokemon with it. So I figured that Grafaiai would be... Covert Cloak was pretty necessary on Grafaiai, so that way it couldn't get faked out turn 1. And it gives you Prankster, which I think is really useful. The moveset I did is Knockoff, because people aren't going to know enough about Grafaiai generally to, in a best of 1 close team sheet environment, to know that it gets Knockoff. And I mean, obviously that could just 1-hit KO a Calyrex. So that's really good. But I will say too that I mainly intended these mons for best of 3 open team sheet. So they are going to know. So you'll be able to see if the Calyrex you're facing does have a Psychic type move in that regard. That's why we have Terra Dark, so you can get that immunity. It would be a risky mon to use your Terra on, but if you're like... Again, remember, like, this is an instance where I've built 5 Pokemon, and I'm really weak to Calyrex-Shadow. So this is my answer. I can use this to get rid of my restricted. So it is... And then, yeah, so specifically, the attack investment, 108 Adamant, KO's max HP Calyrex-Shadow. So that's kind of what I went for, is to get rid of that mon. Both if they... sorry, 1 second. Okay, yeah, sorry. I got to reread my notes. But yeah, so max Calyrex-Shadow. I believe that is for both the knockoff onto a non-Terra Calyrex and a Gunk Shot into a Terra Fairy Calyrex-Shadow. Gunk Shot's really powerful, but remember, it is only 80% accurate. That's kind of my fear there. But I tried to go with a less powerful poison type move, but then it wasn't able to KO. Because I don't know if you know this, Grafaiai, not that good of a Pokemon. But I remember when it first came out, it was such hype. So yeah, so normal type makes it immune to the Astral Barrage, and poison type makes it resist Draining Kiss, which are the 2 most common offensive moves you're going to see on Calyrex-Shadow. And then dark makes you immune to the Psychic type moves if it has one, and makes you resist the Ghost type moves. So I figured that was the perfect Terra type for this. So obviously knockoff is there for Calyrex-Shadow along with Gunk Shot. Then Parting Shot, because it has Prankster, Parting Shot is really good utility if you're just trying to get some damage mitigation out, even if you just want to use it on Calyrex-Shadow. So that way you can bring in like an Incineroar or something and take even less damage. Oh no, here it is. Gunk Shot is a 50% chance to OHKO Terra Fairy max HP Calyrex-Shadow. There it is. So yeah, the Gunk Shot is a 50% chance to OHKO Terra Fairy max HP Calyrex-Shadow, which is pretty good. I could have invested more into attack, but I needed some bulk for some other calcs. Specifically, I calced it so that this spread survives 1 close combat from max attack, Adamant Urshifu. That's going to be kind of your main damage, like your opposing, because Urshifu is the #1 teammate for Calyrex-Shadow. So I needed to be able to survive at least 1 close combat from that at any point. So if they crit, I mean, it survives by like 1%. You're going to be left at like 1 or 2 HP, but you have just enough investment in there to get that done. And then I have Parting Shot for the damage mitigation utility and Taunt for the Prankster utility, so you can stop like Trick Room if they don't have a Farigiraf. You're not going to be faster than like Whimsicott or Tornadus, obviously. So unfortunately, you're gonna get beat out there. But you could, in theory, Terra Dark, so that way they can't Prankster you. So that is also an option. So yeah, so in theory, if you were gonna use Grafaiai in a match, like let's say they lead, you know, Urshifu and Calyrex-Shadow, right? And they say, oh, well, I am obviously going to KO Grafaiai with this close combat. It's so weak. And they go, you survive. The Astral Barrage does nothing. And you get the knockoff and you KO. Like right there, all of a sudden their restricted's gone. The following turn, you can Parting Shot if you would like to. If they don't have Aqua Jet, let's say they're Scarfed. You can Parting Shot out. So that way they can't actually KO the Grafaiai, and then you can continue on the match from there. That was kind of my thinking with this Grafaiai set. I did put in my notes that you could, in theory, replace something with U-Turn if you wanted a slow pivot move, because remember, Grafaiai is not fast. It's 131 is its speed stat. I mean, that's not slow, but that's certainly slower than some of the high speed meta. It's going to be faster than like probably Rillaboom and Incineroar, so you could get some damage off on Rillaboom with a U-Turn, so that is another option, but I figured you could Parting Shot into an Incin or something like that, so that would be really good for this set. So that was my idea to counter Calyrex-Shadow. Next on the list, I think I have them in order, is Miraidon, our friend, everybody's favorite restricted now. I do like Miraidon a lot, actually. So Miraidon, 5%. So, actually, I think the next... I'm not going to go in usage order. I'll just go in the order that I put them in, but Miraidon. So, Miraidon normally runs, as you can tell, Electro Drift, Volt Switch, Draco Meteor Discharge, and then Dazzling Gleam drops. So, the Discharge is at 61%. Almost 2/3 of all Miraidon are running Discharge, and then 15% of Miraidons are running Dazzling Gleam. So, that means that if you're immune to electric moves and dragon moves, it is impossible to touch a Pokemon. So you're probably wondering, what Pokemon does that? Well, for me, I chose Raichu from Wolfie's video. I kind of based my set off that. This could really be any Lightning Rod or Volt Absorbmon. I do think Lightning Rod is better, and you'll see why in a minute. But my idea for this was, if you Terra Fairy, if it's just Raichu and Miraidon left on the field at the end of it, first of all, Raichu's going to get powered up by Electric Terrain. And then if you Terra Fairy it, it's immune to both electric because of the Lightning Rod, where it'll continually get it's +1 to its special attack, and it's immune to dragon type moves because it's a fairy type. So this is an Assault Vest Raichu set with Fake Out for the utility, Nuzzle for the speed control, Volt Switch for pivoting. You'll notice I really like to pivot, and Draining Kiss. Now, I had contemplated between Draining Kiss and Terra Blast, but ultimately I decided Draining Kiss was better because the Miraidon can't hit you. So you don't need to KO it as fast as possible, and you'll kind of notice that with a lot of these Pokemon that I've chosen. But also, I want that Fairy utility outside of having to Terra. Like, cool, I got a Terra Blast, and yeah, that's a normal move, but that's cool. But Draining Kiss would also, in theory, allow me to heal, and this is a pretty bulky Raichu. It's max HP, a little defense, and then enough speed. What was my speed? Oh yeah, so my goal was I gave it just enough speed to outspeed max speed Jolly Mienshao. I know Mienshao is not super common, but I needed to think of the fastest Fake Out user in the meta, and that is Mienshao. So that's kind of what I went for. I outspeeded by 1 point. Obviously, it also outspeeds Landoi and Groudon, which are two primary meta threats to it right now, although you don't really see either of those a ton anymore, which I'm surprised because of the prevalence of Miraidon. You would think you would see more ground types, but I guess high horsepower on Rillaboom is a really good example of that, even though I think U-turn is up. Anyways, I won't delve too much into that. But you're going to outspeed those so you can, in theory, volt switch off whatever the partner is. So that way, and then maybe go into a grass type or a flying type to take that ground type move. As I said before, I had contemplating between Draining Kiss and Terra Blast for consistent fair damage. This does make it the fastest Fake Out user. And then you could... Okay, so the other thought I had was, okay, how quickly do I want to KO Miraidon with the Draining Kiss? You would need 100 EVs into special attack to actually KO the Miraidon. And I decided that that wasn't that important. Because, again, in theory, Miraidon should not be able to touch you at all in any way. So... there are some Assault Vest sets, and that's where you'll mainly see the Dazzling Gleam, but for the most part, I think getting the additional bulk to help survive certain things is really useful. I'm trying to remember why exactly I put 36 defense in there, but it doesn't seem that I wrote it down. So I think I just did that because defense was lower than special defense. So yeah, that would be a Raichu set. This is... I don't know if Wolfie released the team. I remember watching the live stream of where he used an Assault Vest Lightning Rod Raichu, very similar set. It was Fake Out, Nuzzle, Volt Switch, and Endeavor was the fourth move, but again, you want to deal damage to Miraidon, and if it's not dealing damage to you, Endeavor doesn't really do anything. So that's why I chose Draining Kiss, so you can get that super effective damage into it. So that's my idea for a Miraidon counter. Next, let's see what I picked. Stop spoiling. Okay, I actually don't need this tab anymore. I know this is kind of like all the way out there, but I figured that might be a fun type of video to do. It's also my girlfriend Leah's birthday, so happy birthday, Leah. Happy, as soon as I record and edit and post this up, I'll be seeing you in like an hour and a half maybe. So I just kind of wanted to do something fun for this. So next up we have Calyrex-Ice. So, and here's the other thing too. I really didn't want to use like super meta Pokemon. Obviously, Pelipper, basically hard walls, the normal Caly-Ice set. A Ghost Terra Zamazenta or a Ghost Terra Ditto that's copied Zamazenta, hard wall Zamazenta. That's not the point. The point is to cook with spice. So we are trying to get fun, interesting Pokemon as the last slot on an important team. Here comes the every video burp. There we go. So I was like, okay, throw that out. What is a good Pokemon that can hard wall Calyrex-Ice? My answer, of course, is ORTHworm. Or if you're Kevin from Pokesports, EARTHworm. It is an EARTHworm, but its name is ORTHworm. Sorry, that was on their podcast last time. But this EARTHworm set, I thought was really interesting. So Earth Eater, okay, actually, let's go here. Let's go to Calyrex-Ice so you can see kind of what's normal. Calyrex-Ice at 14%. Normally runs Glacial Lance, High Horsepower, Protect, and Trick Room. Remember, again, see, 99%, 92%, 83%, 81%, 10%. These restricted sets are really centralized. You're going to see almost the same thing every time. So I was like, okay, we need to... Oop. Well, the rain just knocked down a branch outside my window. So sorry, branch. But you need to resist or be immune to something. That seems to be my general like ideas. Like, can I be immune to a move it normally has? Can I resist a move it normally has? And yes. So ground and ice. Obviously, normally steel is weak to ground, but ORTHworm has Earth Eater. And if you don't know what Earth Eater does, this Pokemon heals 1/4 of its max HP when hit by ground moves. It has a ground immunity. Cannot be hit by ground moves. So in this instance, not only when Caly-Ice goes for the high horsepower into ORTHworm, is it not taking any damage, it's actually healing it. So that way Caly is going to do even, like, take longer to KO it with something like a Glacial Lance, which it resists. So I went with 252 HP, 4 attack, 156 adamant, 156 impish defense, 92 special defense, and 4 speed with iron defense, body press, iron head, and protect. This also works as a quasi counter for Zamazenta. That's where I like the utility if you utilize the Terra Poison on it. But With ORTHworm in particular, healing is important because remember, Earth ground type moves can heal you. So I think you could do either Leftovers or Citrus Berry. I went with Leftovers, so then I could put Protect and then, you know, continually get Leftovers recovery. And in theory, you could pair it with Rillaboom. Grassy Terrain plus Leftovers recovery every turn is actually pretty significant. So that's a really good combination. If you wanted to replace Protect with a different move, then maybe you would want to swap it to Citrus Berry because then you can get that burst healing. But it's highly up to you. You could keep Protect. You know, this is a guideline. This is something I have made. Feel free to take them, run with them, make some changes, do whatever you want. This is just to give y'all ideas. So the other reason I went for Iron Head over Heavy Slam. So yeah, so some people are probably going, hey, well, why not use Heavy Slam? ORTHworm's pretty heavy. You know what else is heavy? Calyrex-Ice. Calyrex-Ice is really heavy. So Heavy Slam's actually not going to be doing that much to it. That's why I think that Iron Head is better. Plus, I'm fairly certain Iron Head gives you a flinch chance, does it? Yep, 30% chance, a non-insignificant chance to make the opponent flinch. 30%. So almost a third of the time, if you hit this Iron Head, Calyrex will flinch. That's really good. You can activate a bit of hacks into your play. So that's why I went with Iron Head. A, because Calyrex is really heavy, and B, because Iron Head can give you that flinch chance. You could also, in theory, replace Iron Defense with Coil, if that's something you wanted to do. For those of you that don't know, Coil is a setup move that raises your attack, defense, and accuracy by 1 stage. So, you know, that would give you some opportunity to get an attack and a defense boost, plus an accuracy boost, which I don't totally know why you would need that accuracy boost, but there could totally be an option for it somewhere in its moveset. I didn't look that deep. The calcs for this also, so at only 4 attack, so it hits a 106, it does 3-hit KO Clefairy, which is a pretty common friend to something like Calyrex-Shadow. I thought ORTHworm had a lot of outside utility, so I thought maybe it could do some things outside of just when Calyrex is on, which is a lot. You see a lot of Calyrex, particularly on the ladder. So yeah, so Iron Head is a 3-hit KO on Clefairy, and again, gives you that flinch chance. Glacial Lance is a 5-hit KO without any boosts on Calyrex. So I imagine a lead, like let's say you're going into a Calyrex matchup, you would want like ORTHworm and Incineroar, let's say. So you could, normally Calyrex is going to run Clear Amulet by and large. So you could, in theory, if you can get a knockoff off Calyrex, get the Clear Amulet off, and then normally Incin can easily survive just one non-boosted high horsepower from Calyrex, or you open up the opportunity, if you just go straight for the Iron Head, you can get the flinch. All of a sudden now you can Intimidate spam, so it's doing less and less. Or you can just start Iron Defensing and outpacing their attack boost with your defense boost, because remember, Iron Defense is +1. But Coil, Iron Defense, take your pick. I think in this instance, if you're going to go for, I think either are good. I think either totally have usability in this. I just personally, I would want to go with, I want to get through as fast as possible. I want to get as bulky as possible. Now, you still have crit chances, obviously, so be aware of that, but I do think this is a good set. And then Iron Head specifically on Calyrex is a 4-hit KO without any defense boosts from something like Scarf or Shifu. So, again, a lot of options. These are malleable, but this is just kind of the set I chose to play with. So next up, we have Kyogre. Kyogre is really fun. So I'm like, okay, what's a good Pokemon? So let's look at Kyogre on Pikalytics real quick. I actually, speaking of these mons, I had an idea for a team with, Skill Swap, Lightning Rod, Plusle, and Kyogre. So in theory, you could hardwall Miraidon by skill swapping Lightning Rod onto Kyogre, Terra Fairy, and then if they go for an electric attack, you can just keep getting special attack boosts, which I thought would be really fun. I've played around with it. I'm still working on that kind of Mimi team a little bit, but if you guys want to see that, just let me know. But Kyogre. So Kyogre is normally going to run, Water Spout, Ice Beam, Origin Pulse, Thunder, Protect. Seems to be some of the more common moves. Hydro Pump's up there too, and then it drops. So it's going to be, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 moves. So, 3 water, 1 electric, 1 ice. So what's a good Pokemon that could really hardwall Kyogre in this instance? And I actually got this idea from a team I faced some time ago against, it was actually a Miraidon team, and they had Volt Absorb on it, but I actually went with Lanturn. So Lanturn's really cool because you can either get Volt Absorb, which makes it immune to electric types and it heals 1/4 of its HP, or Water Absorb, where it's immune to water type moves and gets 1/4 of its HP back. So I thought that was really cool. So I was like, okay, we could definitely use Lanturn. I think that would be really fun. What can I do with that? So I ended up going for a really slow Lanturn with Thunder, Volt Switch, Scald, and Ice Beam. And the reason I went for Thunder instead of Thunder Beam is because if you're facing Kyogre, you're normally going to be in rain. So you don't particularly need the lack of accuracy isn't going to be there because you're normally going to either have a Rainmon yourself, which would allow you to gain weather control, or want their weather. You would like the weather they have because you are immune to the Let's Go Burr water spouts from Kyogre. So this, for me, is Thunder, and Thunder in this instance is a 2-hit KO on the bulkiest Kyogre set I could find. I just went to Calyrex, went through the top 5, found the bulkiest, like most HP, most special defense I saw, and went for that. So this is a guaranteed 2-hit KO on that set without some form of recovery. I think even with grassy terrain recovery in between the 2 hits, it's quite a bit. It's I think it's like it's almost, I don't think it's quite 100% chance to 2-hit KO, but it's really dang close. So that's something I wanted to. An Ice Beam from Kyogre on this is not a 5-hit KO. So that means it takes 6 hits of Ice Beam to KO Lanturn if it does not Terra. Obviously, that gives them a lot of chances to freeze. So do keep that in mind. But you're normally going to KO Kyogre into Thunders, and that also still gives you the chance to paralyze, which is really cool. Volt Switch from Specs Miraidon is not a 2-hit KO on Lanturn, which is crazy. Crazy. Think about that. Volt Switch from Specs Modest Max Special Attack Miraidon is not a 2-hit KO on a non-Terra Lanturn. Thank the Assault. Oh, by the way, this has Assault Vest. I didn't mention that. With the Assault Vest, this Mon is insanely tanky, dude. It is incredible. I gave it... Yeah, so that's kind of, you get Volt switched off, they can go out for Miraidon. I don't necessarily know if you would ever want to bring this into a Miraidon matchup, but it does have Ice Beam, so in theory you could, and you could Terra Grass. That would give you, all of a sudden now you would resist Electric instead of being neutral to it. But yeah, so in theory you could then slow Volt Switch, pivot out, and then go into something else that might be a little bit more helpful, maybe like Rillaboom, so that way you can get the Grassy Terrain up. I gave it Scald for the burn utility. Plus, if you're in rain, it's going to do quite a bit of damage. I gave it Ice Beam for just additional coverage. So I like this set. I think it's interesting. It provides a lot, and it gives you a nice chunk of coverage. Plus, the Grass Terra is, I think, something someone doesn't expect. So remember, it's water electric, so it's weak to ground. So now all of a sudden you can resist ground, which I think is super helpful for Lanturn. All right. And then last but not least, our final restricted to counter is Zamazenta-Crowned. So, as I said before, basically any heavy ghost type counters Zamazenta-Crowned, but I wanted to go for something a little more fun. So I wanted to be like, let's really dig out, let's see what we can do here. And I went with Palossand. Palossand is not a Pokemon we've seen a lot, and we haven't used a ton, but I thought it would be incredibly interesting for this. So Palossand, again with Leftovers and Water Compaction. So if you don't know what Water Compaction does, it does, is defense is raised by 2 stages after it is damaged by a water move. So if they have a really physical team, you can kind of just go crazy there and just make yourself insanely tanky. Again, you have to be wary of crits, but yeah, I think that's really cool. I would say this is probably my weakest choice as a hard counter. I thought it was fun. I like Palossand. I love its shiny. Its shiny is super cool. And I thought it was such an interesting Pokemon, so I wanted to utilize it for this. But I would say there definitely probably are some better hard counters out there. But I went with Leftovers, Water Compaction, Terra Grass. And the reason I went for Terra Grass is because you have that Water Compaction, you could, in theory, go for some like shenanigans where you have Surf Kyogre, Terra Grass, and then you keep getting defense boosts, so that way the opponent can't KO you with like a Rillaboom would be an option. But it is, the main thing is here is that it's immune. I did want to say that Water Compaction does not make you immune to water type moves. You still get hit by them, but you and then gain the defense boost. So that's something to keep in mind if you want to go for a strat like that. But Palossand is a ghost type, so it's immune to Body Press. And B is a ground type, so it has super effective damage into Zamazenta. And that's ultimately what I thought was a really good combination to pick it. Heavy Slam on Palossand with no boosts, no defense boosts is not a 5-hit KO. Again, that means it takes 6 hits to KO Palossand from a Zamazenta a standard Zamazenta Heavy Slam. Most of the time, people are not putting basically any attack investment into Zam, so that was kind of my thought behind that. Earth Power is a 4-hit KO on a Zamazenta, on the bulky Zamazenta, especially bulky Zamazenta set that I could find. So you are, in theory, outpacing it, but it is kind of like a slow churn because you can't actually get hit. You do have leftovers too, and you have Shore Up, so you can stall them out pretty effectively. Shore Up's basically Palossand's version of Recover, and I think in Rain... no, in Sandstorm. So it restores half of its HP just like Recover, but at 2/3 of its HP in Sandstorm. So that's really cool. But yeah, so you can outpace damage Zamazenta damage-wise when you have Palossand. I did give it enough special attack. This is something I consider. Palossand is very slow, and unfortunately is not slower than Torkoal, unless you can get like 0 EV, 0 IVs. I think then you can outspeed a 31 IV Torkoal. It's going to be really close either way, but it does, Earth Power from Palossand does OHKO a standard Torkoal set, which is normally just max HP, max special attack, and 4 special defense. You're guaranteed the 1-hit KO. So that was something I really wanted to get through, because if you can KO a Torkoal, maybe they don't respect the Palossand, they don't go for the Protect, you OHKO the Torkoal, and all of a sudden their Trick Room's kind of out. And then the reason it's 252 special defense is the Torkoal matchup. We don't see Torkoal a super ton anymore, but I did think it was kind of important. The special defense allows it to live 1 eruption in either Sun or a Fire Terra Torkoal, but not both. You can't do both. I figured the damage on Zamazenta was more important than the Torkoal survival. So if it's in the Sun and they Fire Terra, you're done and gone. Dunzo, so sorry, bye-bye. But if it's just one or the other, you survive 100% of the time without a crit. So those are my top 5 hard counters. I hope y'all liked this video. It was fun for me to kind of do this theory crafting, doing this creating. And I know you just listened to 33 minutes of just straight me talking and clicking around on my screen. So if you liked this video, if you liked the idea, feel free to comment down below and let me know. If you had any other thoughts, any other ideas, or anything you would like to see, I would love to hear them. This is a different kind of format that I would be interested in maybe continuing if people want to see it. So just let me know. But if you try out one of these sets, if you build it up and give it a go, I would love to see the videos. I think that would be super cool. Hopefully I will have I do have a team I've made that cooks with spice a little bit that maybe I'll feature some point soon. Zolrain featured it on his channel a little while ago, so I will also include that link in the description down below. But thank you all so much for watching. And as Twan says, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel, and eventually it might be an opportunity that I could funnel some things I get from that into making this channel even better. So feel free to leave any questions or comments down below, and I hope y'all have a good day. All right? Peace!